ladies and gentlemen, back in the zone. Rich Sutter, Pete Coles. We are hot coming in with the first round of the NBA, and we are bumped up and ready to go. The weather here in Western Massachusetts is absolutely beautiful. It's a gorgeous day. We've been having a fabulous run of weather. Really, really excited about that. And we've had our new segment in the show called Pete's Corner, and we're going to jump right off into it right now, and Pete's ready to go. Boom.
All right, question number one. Is the Celtics' strategy of live by the three and die by the three a good idea in the NBA?
So I grew up in New York, and we used to have this great saying back home. If you live by the jump shot, you will die by the jump shot. But that is no longer culturally acceptable in today's game. The three-point shot is here to stay. It's being embraced. You know, they call it spacing, a lot of different things. Now you see some different formations as well, 5 out, 4 out, where they're really just spreading the floor way, way out there and just moving the ball around till they find that open shooter. And now they're settling for that. I've always had a lot of cognitive problems with it. I've had a lot of philosophical problems with it. I come from New York, and we were in attack the rim, culture down there. We were a culture that didn't need to spread the floor. We wanted to swarm the rim. And as much as I try and talk to my players about some of that right now, I don't think that that's something that's being widely accepted. I think right now, I think I could tell it to you, where I went to see a varsity game a number of years ago, and in order to watch the game, sometimes there's a JV game beforehand. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching the end of the JV game, and there were 5 young sophomores standing all around the three-point line, and each one of them hoisting one after the next after the next. Now, extrapolate that out into the modern NCAA world and the NBA world. The Warriors are going to go crazy with it this year. The Celtics are absolutely going to follow suit. And I think if you look in the college ranks, Alabama, in a box score that I saw recently, had somewhere in the area of 65 shots, and 40 plus of them were threes.
Wow.
So it's the new way to go. And somebody convinced these guys that mathematically that was the way to go. And if you have great shooters, and they can go buy great shooters now, it makes a lot of sense. One of the things that makes UConn's offense as powerful and the juggernaut that it has been in the last 2 years is because they have those shot makers. They have those people that can spot up, hit that 3 ball, which then makes it all different. If the ball doesn't go in, what happens is you go long lapses without scoring, and you just keep shooting bad shot after bad shot, which then places a lot of emphasis on your defense. So that's one of the reasons I don't like it, just from a pragmatic standpoint, from a coaching standpoint. You never really want to put too much duress on your defense, because in my opinion, the offense has always had an advantage over the defense in basketball, and they always will. And so you want to minimize that as much as a coach for your defense. Great question, Pete.
Okay, question number 2. Should the National Letter of Intent Day be replaced with a high school draft system?
Wow. Now, that's an unbelievably great question. I think I'm going to have to start asking you for these questions beforehand, because that's deep. That one runs deep. But I'll jump into it because it's really, really great question. So you're saying NIL, and we just start going into a draft, because right now what you have is the highest bidding system. You have somebody who's sitting out there, and players as well, using that skill of negotiation right now in order to better themselves as well. So what you're looking at is really, it's a capitalist front right now. What we would be saying there is you now will predetermine where young men are going to school. You will then have to declare this not an amateur league anymore. You'd have to say it's semi-pro, which it really is right now anyway, without naming it that. But I think that there's a lot of problems to that based upon people's just ability to freely move where they want. I don't want to go to SMU, but they're up next in the draft and they selected you. I don't think that is plausible. But it's an interesting idea though, because the way things are right now, it's like they're just gonna, be finding money all over the place.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. Right now, I'll give you an example. AJ DeBonsa, #1 player in the country. We've talked about him on this show right now. He's got a myriad of schools in there, but you would shake your head at some of the schools for the #1 player in the country. BYU is heavily involved there. And one of the reasons is that the inside people working with DeBonsa, the agents, family, everybody there, they're talking about $7 to $9 million.
Wow.
That's their number. And then other schools have talked about somewhere in the $2 to $4 million range. But that's where this whole thing is going to go. And that young man will not attend the school that's best for him academically. It won't even attend the school that might be best for him athletically. They'll attend the school that pays them the most money. And that really, it falls a little heavy when you say it like that and when you hear it like that. But that's where the game is right now. And a lot of what's happening right now in both basketball and in the world, it falls very heavy with people because very simply, they've supported this their entire life, whether you're talking about basketball or the United States of America. They feel like they've supported this their whole life. And the changes that are occurring are completely outside of their control. They have absolutely no control over what's going in the game right now. And that has to be frustrating to the average person who really does love these teams. They really do have an affection. I'll give you my St. Bonaventure fans, for an example. They love that team. That stadium's filled out every single night. On the road, they'll travel. They'll show up in Florida. They'll show up in Ohio. Bonner Nation will travel. And if you look at that at a much bigger school, they travel too. But that's because of the passion of the people who are willing to spend their own money and own dollars in order to create that passion. I just wonder what happens when you kill the passion. That's my question, I guess.
All right. Question number 3. Can you break an opponent's will in the first 5 minutes?
Yes. 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 I've seen it. Again, I'll give it to you on both sides. I don't claim on this, that I'm any John Wooden great guru and I've only had successes. I can tell you from both sides of it, if your team gets off to a really, really bad start, that could be the end of it. Now, what you're seeing more and more and more are some of these really big leads evaporating quickly because of the three-point shot, because of people's abilities to score rapidly. And I think that that's something that's a little bit new to the game, is that these – where you used to be really, really out of it at a certain point, especially if you watch an NBA game where it's an island where nobody's really ever off the island,
Yep.
But it's one of those situations where, I've seen some dramatic comebacks in the NBA and now also in college basketball. There's a lot of swing to the game now more, and that's created by the three-point shot because you can make up points very, very quickly, So another good one, Pete, another good one. Okay. We're going to bounce out into our NBA fish. Feed 'em fish, folks. That's how we like to go with it. Last week, we kind of scathed Kendrick Perkins a little bit for his Nilly deal. And we have him as our Benedict Arnold Award winner for turning on the Celtics. And I just wanted, he's a big, big Knick fan all of a sudden. I don't know where that came from. But before we dispense of Perk the Clerk on the show for the last time, because I don't really like talking about him, I'll be honest with you, okay? After watching Boston Celtics hold up their 18th banner, NBA record, 18th banner, raise it in the rafters, open up on the Boston hardwood floor, and absolutely smoke the Knicks. Now, you ask, can a game be over in the very first 5 minutes? There's an example of it. They would never, but the Celtics are on this thing now where they're keeping to push the pedal. Because they tied a record for most NBA threes in that game.
Well, that's where my question about the 3-pointers came up.
Right, and so they tied the record. Now you got a shot, and they're going to say, okay, we're going to break the record. And that led to a litany of really, really horrible attempts at the basket where they couldn't break it. They were looking to break it. Somebody told them they could break it, and all those shots didn't fall. So they wound up tying the record, which is in itself good. And I think eventually, the way things are going right now, that record is going to be blown to smithereens a number of times this year. I could see the record being broken for sure, and then being broken several more times during the year the way things are going. But they opened up with the Garden and Perk. How does it feel now, baby? That was a absolute clinic put on by the Celtics. They came out and looked great. And I'm going to get into it right now. Whoever made that trade for the New York Knicks, I don't know what their general manager's name is. I don't know who was involved in this trade. But anybody that was involved in the trade that you brought with the team chemistry that you had on that team, and whoever walked in and decided to throw a cherry bomb into that room and blow up that team chemistry, blow up their Villanova connection, and considerably make your team worse, grab your hat, head for Broadway, jump out onto 7th Avenue right now and get out of the business, because there's absolutely no way that you're going to be able to make a case to me, even just watching them after that first game, that that's as good a Knick team as they had last year. Absolutely no way.
You said it wasn't going to be good.
They have Mikal Bridges, who they picked up. They let go Dante DiVincenzo, who was loved. He was really loved and a great, great glue guy role player. You can't get enough of those guys on NBA teams, all right? And they let him go for Mikal Bridges, who was also, not for Mikal Bridges, but they brought in Mikal Bridges, which then made Dante DiVincenzo a little more dispensable. Him and Randall went to the Timberwolves for Karl Anthony Towns, which is a whole nother mess unto itself. And so now you're sitting there and you're the Knicks and you've made these deals, and the Celtics absolutely come out and throttle you. They, at the end, mercifully came back in the game at the end of that game, but at different points of the game, it was an absolute smoke show. They were up by 35, 37, 38 points on them. Eventually, in the fourth quarter, when the Celtics subbed and took out a lot of their starters, they had some guys in there, that weren't really holding the lead, and then the lead came down a little bit. But, I mean, wow, that was such a game one for the Celtics to show up. You want to talk about reigning champions? Well, they're ready. You want to talk about reigning champions? They're taking this seriously. And you want to talk about a team that's completely bought in. Wait till they get Porzingis back with the three-point shooting, because he's a big man that can really, really stretch the floor. I mean, that's going to really add to the dimension. But I also wanted to add also that whoever the general manager of the Milwaukee Bucks is, you should grab your hat, grab your tam, and step out onto whatever street runs outside of Milwaukee Arena as well, because you gave up Jrue Holiday, and that guy is playing out and out some of the best basketball in the NBA right now. If I had to put together a point guards list right now, Jrue Holiday is my number one guy. Watching him the other night, it's like this might even be a little too easy for him right now. That's where his understanding of the game is, that's where his skill set is at, and that's where his teammates are at. That team's going to have you're going to have a really, really difficult time flushing that team out. Tell me right now, which Western Conference team is going to take them? I don't see it. I really don't see it. And in the East, oh, my God, you got guys that can't even play back-to-back games that are right in their conference. How are they going to beat them? And then you have this Knick team that's just, to me, look like their chemistry. They failed chemistry 101 right here. And the NBA is not really a league of consequences. You get fired, you get rehired. You get fired, you get moved around. Wait 6 months, we'll pick you back up someplace else. That goes for the general managers, the coaches, all of that stuff. I think they have this kind of secret pudding up there that only they can make and only they know how to do. And really, it's a little bit arrogant, but in their arrogance, that's where you see them sliding and dipping and diving all this stuff right now. The Knicks, they've been dismantled. And Karl Anthony Towns, when they picked him up, I was like, you just traded Julius Randle for Karl Anthony Towns. It's almost the same person. You didn't get any better. And so the whole thing right now, to me, wow, watching the Celtics, they came out on fire. And Jalen Brunson right now, I'm going to be honest with you, all right? He's the new James Harden of the NBA for me. He squeezes the ball way too much. He overhandles the ball way too much. The Knicks' offense is really, really in disarray as a result of it, because all he does is squeeze the ball, take errant and bad shots right now in order to try and push his cachet up as one of the great players in the league. I never saw him as one of the great players in the league compared to some of the other talent that's out there. A great basketball player, no question, but not a marquee NBA guy either. And he's doing everything he can to try and elevate his profile, but unfortunately, and this is going to be a challenge for Thibodeau, unfortunately, he's doing it at the expense of his own team. All right. It's why I never liked James Harden, and I watched him the other night, and the Celtics were ready for him. Holiday smoked him in that game, absolutely smoked him in that game. And now you're going to look at what they have moving towards the future. If that continues with the level of defensive output that they showed against the Celtics, they won't make the playoffs this year. I hate to say it, folks. I hate to say it. At one point, it was 83-57 in that game. That's your opening game. The Celtics had 102 points with 3:44 left in the third quarter. They had 100 points eclipsed in the third quarter. And we're supposed to be a defensive operation? I don't see it.
That's called the tone setter for the season, though.
Oh,
Come on, punch your first opponent in the mouth.
that's what they. If Celtic fans wanted to see it, they saw everything. They got to be excited. They got to be pumped up. And if you're a Knick fan, man, you got to be a little disappointed. You have to be a little disillusioned. You have to say to yourself, why? Why? I don't know. All right, let's go to game two. Game two of the opening night was the Timberwolves and the Lakers. And again, whoever's the general manager of the Timberwolves, get your Nikes and start stepping, baby, because I don't know what that trade was all about for either team. It didn't help either team in terms of chemistry. Right now, the Lakers came out, and I've been real critical of the Lakers and don't think that they're as good a franchise as they could be. And one of that is because of all the consolidation of power that they have in that organization in one person's hands. But we've talked about that quite a bit. But the Lakers actually came out, looked very good. I think they took my advice a little bit, Pete, in that they moved LeBron to the point a little bit in that game, and they looked good when he was there running the show. That's my whole thing for the Lakers. Forget who's around him.
You said that all last season.
Just put him at the point. He was a point guard his whole life. They moved him off. They started him getting into the scoring mode. He can score plenty from the point, but if he's your best facilitator, if he's your best player, you want the ball in his hands as much as you possibly can get it. That's what I am as a coach. I want to get my best players the ball because that's my job. I want to get them open looks. I want to get them good spots. I want to find that right rhythm for them. And so they looked very, very good. Rui Hashimura, who I've always been high on. I don't know why they caught him coming off the bench last year. Maybe it was a young thing. But I still think they have to solve this thing at point guard. I'm not a D'Angelo Russell fan at point guard, but they wound up, the Wolves tried to fight back. They didn't have it. The Lakers finished strong, won the game, and they looked pretty good doing it. I've been very critical of J.J. Redick. I really have been. But I thought they looked pretty good. They lost by 58 points in a preseason game to the Golden State Warriors. I was worried. I was like, oh, this could go bad. But I think, the way I watched them the other night, I'm going to tell you exactly what they're doing, folks. And this is from me, from you as a coach. They're running a lot of UConn's offense for the Lakers right now. Although they didn't bring in Danny Hurley, although they didn't take him as the coach, they did take some of that philosophy. Because right now you have Coach K is involved with the Lakers a little bit. J.J. Redick is Coach K's former player. Danny Hurley is now, I believe, not working with the Lakers or doing anything like that, but I think he's the icon of basketball right now where people are starting to duplicate and try to replicate what they're doing at UConn, even on the pro level. And when I watched the Lakers the other night, I said, oh, I see. And I thought it was pretty good. I'm going to be honest. I thought it was pretty good. Andre Drummond has come out. I was excited about this pick for the 76ers. Really, really excited about adding him as some depth, especially if you got a guy who says, I can't go back to back. You're going to really need a good backup center for your guy who can't go back to back. Okay? So what you have here now is a situation where Andre Drummond comes out and he really, really, I like the young man, but he came out and declared himself the greatest rebounder of all time. Opening night, he did have 13 rebounds, opening night. So I do want to make that of mention. But then I sat there, I pondered, and then I broke out my Google, and I said, get me the top 25 rebounders of all time. I looked on the list, and there was Bill Russell. There was Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, some great names on that list. I didn't see Andre Drummond's name on the top 25, not in the top 10, not in the top 15. Andre, you're not on the list. You did get 13 the other night, so that's a good start in the right direction. But let's put a bunch of those building blocks together before we declare ourselves the greatest of all time. Okay, right now, it's a very exciting time, as we said, in Husky land. UConn territory, as the last couple of years has just blown up and has absolutely overtaken college basketball. But right now, they are going to start the season with 9 players on current active NBA rosters. That's unbelievable. And a lot of the players that you're going to hear are from the very, very recent era. And when you look at some of the players that are here in this kind of bunched up group, it really, really does strike you as that's why they've been as good as they are. You have Stephon Castle, just recently drafted in last year's draft. Donovan Clingan, He's going to have a shot to be Rookie of the Year, too, I believe. Tristan Newton is now with the Pacers. Cam Newton is with the Grizzlies. I like him. Jordan Hawkins. That's Cam Spencer, excuse me. We don't have two Newtons in a row. That's Cam Spencer, excuse me. Jordan Hawkins, Adamo Sanogo, Tyrese Martin, Aaron Jackson, and, of course, the aforementioned greatest rebounder in the world, Andre Drummond. So the NBA went off with their format of two-game front to start out, the eminent front, as they say, to start out, and they went boom, boom. Pretty nice job. I thought it was two very good games, although, it was a little difficult for me as an East Coast guy to stay up for that West Coast game, but we managed to stick it out. But we did get the espresso moving early on that one. But it was a little bit more difficult to watch the Boston and the Knicks game because it was over from the beginning. It was never close. It was fun to watch the Celtics run up and down with that kind of joy that they have for basketball right now. But after that, if you were expecting the Eastern Conference to be something really tight and really, really expanding as far as the number of teams that are going to get into that race, I think they gave you a pretty good answer right there. Night 2 brought us the Pacers and the Pistons. Okay, good game. Pacers got by. Nets and Hawks were the next one. I'm kind of hopeful for the Nets, but I thought if you're going to be good, you're going to have to go into Atlanta and beat this team that's not very good, and they did not. Magic and the Heat, this is a surprise. Magic came out of that game and bang, bang, gave it a really good shot there and smoked the Heat in Miami. I was a little surprised by that. The Bucks over the 76ers. The 76ers don't have Paul George. They don't have Joel Embiid. I think the Vegas guys might have taken that into account where the Bucks were slightly favored in the game as a road traveler, and they came out and played very, very well and wound up winning the game. Cavaliers went in and smoked the Raptors in Toronto. The Hornets and Rockets, another surprise. I've kind of been high on this Rockets team, kind of very excited about watching them progress this year, possibly into a playoff team. They got smoked at home last night by the Hornets. Not a good sign, folks. Okay? The Bulls and the Pelicans, we're hopeful. We're hopeful for Billy D. They struck one out there, 81-80 over the Pelicans. That was a good win for them. The Grizzlies with Zach Edey caught his first DQ. Welcome to the league, big fella. You don't see that often anymore in the NBA where people are actually fouling out because most people aren't even trying on defense. So kudos to the young man, Zach Edey. He gets DQ'd in his first one. That means he's out there blocking shots, intimidating, and trying to get some rebounds. They did win, though. Ja Morant back, and they did win. The Suns took the Clippers in a really, really close game, came down to it, and this is what was a little bit exciting. But, again, I got to hit the Clippers on this one because you come down to it. The Suns come down. They have Kevin Durant. Isolation, boom, boom. And the Clippers ran two guys at him. It was one of the best contested shots I've seen in a long time. But Durant's just a killer once that ball gets over his shoulder. He can raise up, and you're not going to be able to do much about it because of his length. He gets the ball up, gets it over the top of them, and he actually puts them up top, and now you got actually ties the game. And now you got Harden comes down, and there's a good 22 seconds left in the game with a 24-second clock. Nobody else touches the ball the entire possession but Harden. He holds on to it, drives to his left hand, throws up a piece of garbage, and it doesn't go in. And I got to question Tyronn Lue for, if you have a timeout there, did you use the timeout? Did you come off the bench with a really good set play? Or did you just let the guy hold the ball, string the ball, and throw up a piece of garbage? Because if that was your plan, then they got CYO guys all over New York and New Jersey that can come in and coach NBA teams, okay? You got to step up, my friend. That's all I can tell you. The Warriors and the Blazers was late. I don't know who won that game, Pete. We'll find out later. All right. Here's the draft that we took, and here's what we're talking about, and here's what we think is where we drew some lines, and we're going to give you 8 names that we think we drew the line on, and we drew the line on pretty well. Zach Edey was our number 1. They drew the line at him on number 9. All right, we had him at number 2. We had the big DC out of UConn, 2-time national champion winner, Donovan Clingan. We had him at number 2. You're going to be sorry. You're going to be sorry. The teams that let him slide past number 7. I'm going to be honest with you. He's going to be a really good NBA player. Going to be a terrific NBA player. I like Filipowski. I had him at 8. They took him at 32. crazy. Utah Jazz, good pickup, but wow. Kellel Ware, not a big of a difference, but if you let somebody slide 4 places, that can be huge because you didn't get him. I had him at 11. They had him at 15. That's going to turn out to be in our favor as well. Adem Bona, I had him at 12. They have him at 41. With the 76ers, and I'm just going to throw this out there, with Paul George and the other big guy, Joel Embiid, saying we can't go back to back, well, that's going to help some of their young players. That's going to get them minutes. They're going to get to playing games. They're going to be in there. And so I think Adem Bona is going to be one of those players that benefit from that. And I think it's really, Tyrese Maxey was out there by himself last night, but boy, did he put up some great numbers as well. So it's going to benefit some people as well. But I still find it really, really unbelievable that the NBA hasn't said nothing about this. The people who pay for those tickets hasn't said anything about this. I think it's really, really odd. All right, Jalen Tyson. We said take him at 13. They took him at 20. He's going to have a monster rookie year, folks. I'm telling you right now. Terrence Shannon, 16, and he was taken at 21. We love Terrence Shannon, and I think that some of the stuff that happened to him last year that was off court, that he was found innocent of, I think that cost him some draft spots, and that cost him some money, and I think that that's important to note. Trey Alexander, we had him at number 42. Boy, would he have been a great second-round pickup for some people. He went undrafted. He's in now, but going to be good. All right, so we're going to slip and slide here a little bit. We got Clemson coming in, Pete, another one. The Tigers are no longer, the Tigers are getting taken to the zoo. And the Tigers are getting taken to the zoo for a $150 fee in your student fee tuition so that you can help pay for future Tigers to come in and be millionaires off the NIL.
Should we put this graphic back up again?
Go ahead, Pete. Come on. We're going to use
raining
that.
Money.
It's just rain. It used to be raining men. Now it's raining cash. South Carolina has a similar plan in place, and theirs is similar to where you have $80 per semester, which is $160 per year. Here's the thing that people got to take notice of, all right? You broke. The NCAA, you broke. They came in and they said you got to pay back billions of dollars. And so now you broke, and you got your tin cup out, shaking it in every direction you can to try and get everybody to pay for your malfeasance, years and years of malfeasance. Now you want your student body, your freshmen, sophomores, coming in loaded down with student debt. They're already taking a significant amount of student debt on, maybe from Nilly or Edley, one of those great loan companies that are out there right now. But they're out there trying to get their way through. And you just hit them with another fee. You just hit them with another couple of dollars that it just doesn't say that you have any investment in this at all. Where is your money? Where's the money that you've been taking from these TV contracts all these years? You built buildings with them. You built laboratories with them. Where's the money now? And this is what I want everybody to know. They broke. They don't have no money. And now they got billions of dollars of judgment that they have to pay to former players going back. And now you got to pay going forward. Unbelievable. Another quick note that I wanted to bring up kind of in the NBA frame is the WNBA, they are now union busters. They want to drop out of their collectively bargained agreement. Ladies, I'm going to just say something to you very, very carefully. Be careful. Be careful about this. Saudi Arabia can start a league in no time. Europe can start another league in no time, just like they had in Live Golf, where they took all those golfers to Saudi Arabia and paid a bundle of money to them. A lot of these young ladies right now are starting to listen to other offers. Here's what I say about your collective bargaining agreement, okay? This year you lost $40 to $50 million. You're operating under NBA executives who are funding the league for years and years. And now you're starting to draw some fans, starting to draw a lot of interest, but your best player who's brought that interest is one of the people who's giving consideration to, she could start her own league right now. That's where her level of cachet is right now, and I'm speaking about Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, she could drop.
She could go to Saudi Arabia right now, take a big boatload of money, tell all of her friends like Angel and all of the other girls in there who are making $70K a year, come on over here, and we'll drop the NBA to its knees. And I would be careful right now Your collectively bargained agreement it adds a little protection. I'd be careful about that. I would. Here's some young guns in the NBA under 25 that really group that we've talked about on this show. Let's codify it just a little bit for you. Paolo Banchero, great player. Victor Wembanyama, possibly up for DPOY of the year again, Defensive Player of the Year. LaMelo Ball, man, he's putting up some numbers. What a monster opening night he had. Anthony Edwards, oh my God, he's one of the greatest players in the NBA right now, still under 25. And they got some young guns here. They're saying under 25. There's also some guys that are 25 that I don't know that they counted. Tyrese Halliburton, Scotty Barnes, Chet Holmgren. Those are three future stars right there, folks, and they're under 25. Cade Cunningham of Oklahoma State. Zion, big Zion out of Duke, going to be a star in the NBA for years and years if he stays healthy. Tyrese Maxey is going to put up monster numbers while those other guys are sitting out. And Alperen Sengun for the Rockets, he's had some really good notables. Now, Ja Morant's 25. I don't know if they didn't count him because he's 25. I don't know. Cam Thomas, Luka Doncic, Brandon Miller, they didn't count any of these guys. Jamie Jaquez, 21 and 22. Those guys are pretty good too. So I really like that list. Not bad. Here's the NBA. Somebody put out an NBA top 20. Here's their top 20 players. All right? It's not bad. All right? We can come up a little bit later. We have in the past. We'll continue to do it throughout the year, but let's just go through theirs. They have the Joker, number 1. They got Luka, number 2. They have Giannis Antetokounmpo, 3. Is that arguable, Pete?
Yeah, you could kind of swap those guys in and out of those spots.
Well, here we go with the next. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jason Tatum, my MVP, and that's just because I want to see him stick it to Steve Kerr. Steph Curry, number 6. God, he's unbelievable. We'll go to 7 just to straighten it out. LeBron James is number 7. Okay, I
don't
still
think
think
LeBron is up. Should LeBron be up that high?
I think he's probably a little higher.
Really?
I mean, in my mind, he's better than Giannis Antetokounmpo as a player. He shoots it better, passes it better. Antetokounmpo's a stud and can really get out in the lane and dunk and do good stuff, but he can't shoot the ball outside of 12 feet.
Okay.
All right? He's a physical specimen. And when he gets around the basket, it's unbelievable. But his ability to shoot the ball isn't the same as LeBron's. And I would say that let's just walk through it. LeBron James, Steph Curry. I'm taking LeBron. LeBron James, Jason Tatum. That's a rough one, but I'm going to take LeBron still. I got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Give me LeBron. I get all the excitement about these young guys, but this is LeBron James, folks. Antetokounmpo, give me LeBron. Doncic, I'm going to take LeBron because Doncic don't play. There's a D in Doncic, but it should be Onchic because it's really silent. And then you got Joker. He's never been in a defensive stance either. And so I would say LeBron James would be probably, I would put him number 1 personally. Joel Embiid, number 8. Not if he's not playing back-to-backs, he's not. Kevin Durant, I might bump him up a little bit. Anthony Edwards, this is where the list gets bumpy. Anthony Edwards at 10. He's one of the greatest players in the NBA right now. But at 10, all right. Victor Wembanyama at 11. Too high, too low. This is why I like these lists. It causes great conversation. Here's one I'm going to go way down on. Jalen Brunson at 12. No way. Absolutely no way. If you want somebody that squeezes the ball all the time, bring in James Harden. Jaylen Brown at 14. Okay, you told me you paid $50+ million for the 14th best player in the NBA. That's why, and I hate to say, Pete, that you and I predicted this. That's why right now, guess what? The Celtics are for sale. I don't have the money. I'm a little short. But the Celtics are for sale because the son and the dad who owns the majority interest in the team, let the son go and they went their payroll, and now he's looking at their payroll. They still have to pay Tatum again. They're still going to have to pay Jrue Holiday, and you better want to keep him. Now you're talking about you can't make money, and your books. So the Celtics are for sale. A lot of people don't know this, okay? So if anybody wants to help me buy the team, let's go. Let's go. I'm ready. I think we can keep that franchise where it is and not spend that exorbitant amount of money that they have been spending. I mean, it is pretty ice shattering when you look at $50 million a year, $60 million a year. Now for Tatum's going to need 60 because there's already guys. Embiid's at 60 and he don't play back to backs.
We've been saying that this is outrageous. It's not sustainable.
That's the word, Pete, that I'm looking for. It's unsustainable. It's not that I just don't like it. It's a bad business model. Okay. Anthony Davis at 13, he looked very good the other night. Jaylen Brown, we go boom. Devin Booker, 15. I'm a little down on Booker right now. Tyrese Halliburton, 16. I've been high on him. I think that's a good spot for him. Donovan Mitchell at 17, way too low. Way too low. He should be up near in that 10, 12 range, I believe. He had 70 points in an NBA game, and he is absolutely carrying the Cleveland Cavaliers on his back right now. I think he's a little better than people think. Bam Adebayo, 18. Tyrese Maxey, 19. Ja Morant, number 20. Now, I'm going to say this to all the young players in the world, okay? Ask yourself at home. I want you to sit on the edge of your bed. Close your eyes. You're a future NBA player. You got talent. You're going to be one of the greats among the greats, okay? Is Ja Morant listed in the 20 spot because Ja Morant's the 20 best player in the NBA? Or is Ja Morant listed in the NBA's 20 spot because of the gun charges and all the other stuff that went around him in the offseason, leading to his suspension of multiple games? Same thing with Terrence Shannon. And that was none of Terrence Shannon's doing. But that's what happens with some of the great players out there. But I'm looking right here and I'm saying, is this how, is this having an impact and does it have an effect? And I got to say, it probably does because he ain't 20. No business being 20, okay? They didn't have Zion in the top 20. I got to get him in there. Kyrie wasn't in there. They had him at 25. Jimmy Butler, the Heat wasn't in there, and James Harden wasn't in there as well. Interesting. Okay, J.J. Redick. All right. Just joking, as we said. J.J., the just joking part was the J.J., okay? But we were a little bit impressed with that team that they came out with. I mean, they lost by 58 points. I was ready to fire them right then. Okay? But now, I'm going to evaluate, I'm going to look, and I'm going to be very honest with you. Okay, game one, I'm gonna say that he delivered his coaching credentials. I was not happy with Mazzulla being handed the Celtics reins, and especially in the fashion that went down. But I got to give Joe Mazzulla credit. He went through the fire, and he's got himself a ring now. And that ring is like that thing in the Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail. Those rings don't go on fire, and you can see it in his demeanor right now. I got the ring. I'm a made man, and you can see it in his confidence level. You can see it in his demeanor. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. To prove what it takes in the Legg Law Firm of our previously talked about Leonard, Embiid, and George law firm to prepare to show you what we have to do what it takes to represent you. We're going to sit out the first week. We're going to sit out longer than the first week. We want you to know that we are fully committed. And in the zone right now, we're moving the 76ers up to the 86ers because they've 86 back-to-back games, and right now they look like they're about 86 years old. All right, so you have that's good for the Celtics. It's good for the Celtics, okay? You have A-Rod, baseball, all right? Back in New York, in my softball league, we used to call guys like A-Rod side swipers, all right? A-Rod was a side swiper. I mean, he would get out of the way of a good, hard fastball that came his way, a really good, like where Derek Jeter was diving into the stands and cutting up his face. A-Rod was pretty boy. He was a side swiper. But A-Rod apparently has got a bunch of people with this guy Laurie and some money, and they are part owners of the Timberwolves right now, and they are trying to bump and sideswipe the other guy out of it. They have $940 million in order to take it. The majority owner is Glenn Taylor. Glenn Taylor says they missed a payment of their scheduled payment, and now the deal is off, and says he doesn't want to do it, okay? It still needs approval of 23 owners, but you have Bloomberg now involved in this as well. I knew it wasn't their own money they were using, and they seem to have missed and delayed a payment, but Now it's in arbitration. We're going to let a judge figure it out.
Yep.
I love that. Okay, let's go to the NCAA for a bit, Pete, because there's a whole lot of shaking going on. We're going to go November 4th is going to be your first night, and there's some really good games that night. There's a bunch of cannolis going to be devoured on that night as well, too. There's 200 games, and I'm going to say there's going to be 5 good games and 195 cannolis, 195 Dickie V cupcakes. But that's where the money's at right now. Here, let me tell you where it's a little bit more insidious.
Somebody's got to pay those NIL deals.
Somebody got to pay those NIL bills. And what you're doing also that at this point, though, is at some point you're going to have to realize that by paying these guarantees, you're now possibly helping some of these other teams develop their NIL. Right? So if I'm a if I'm a low-level AD and I'm coaching at Fairfield and I say, do you want to take on 5 guarantee games? And if you take 5 guarantee games and get paid $100,000 for each game, most likely you're going to be 0-5. But you and I as AD, I can kind of count those out of your evaluation process, but that's your NIL money as well. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you $2.5 million to use in your NIL, $250,000 to use in your NIL. I'm going to give you $300,000 to use in your NIL. So they may be creating monsters that they don't know about either. And so we'll see how that goes. All right. So, Pete, you talked to me last week. It was a great question. I just wanted to expound on it a bit for our fans because we got the best fans in the world. We got some great people, and they do question me from time to time about stuff that I say. And so I really wanted to be clear. And this is a really, really fascinating and interesting way to clear it up. We talked about scrimmage and we talked about exhibition. All right. Here's the fastest way that I can tell all of our zoners, all of the people that are here, here's the fastest way to know the difference. If you didn't get no money, you were at a scrimmage. If you got paid, you were at an exhibition game. Okay? For NCAA purposes, they don't really matter. They're both the same thing. Preseason games, you get 2 of them. But if you take an exhibition, there's a check that comes with that. If you have a scrimmage, there's no check. So I think that might be the best way to clean it up for you.
In the time of NIL, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, it's just,
it's insane, all the money out there.
It's floating around. It's floating around. And so we alluded to, sometimes you can watch other things and then draw inference from those other things and then see, wow, does this really start to hit over here? So where's the inference right now? The NBA. Right? All that money floating around, all these crazy contracts floating around. And are the owners just going to throw up their hands now and say, I'm not making what I used to make. I'm not getting anything out of this. Why do I own this team? You know, with these salaries and these contracts and all of this other stuff going on, you sit there and you say, wow, why would we do it? And so everybody is going to run out of somebody else's money eventually.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening in the NCAA. They're running out of everybody else's money right now. And they got bills to pay down there. I don't know how they're going to get around all this. I don't know how they're going to get away with all this because they're talking about billions of dollars that have to go. And I don't know who is exactly on the hook for it.
I mean, tuition's outrageous already. If they keep adding fees, when does somebody go, this has to stop? When does the pain increase too much?
Part of it is you have the decision makers at those places generally aren't I'm going to say this delicately, but it generally isn't the people you would think making those decisions. Most of these universities have board of trustees, and board of trustees are the ones who will say we up the fees or we don't. And a lot of these colleges, like if you look at a New York State, the whole SUNY system for the really, really long time, and I think still to this day, they have one board of trustees for the entire system.
Oh, wow.
And so when they say we're going to raise fees, everybody gets hit. In our system, we have these very bifurcated and split and splintered board of trustees all over the place on all these different campuses. And each school makes their own decisions about that, which I think is pretty good, I guess. But also then, to decide how much. we need to bump it up this much because we're doing a capital project right now. We have a building going up. We need to really jump the fees up a little bit to pay the bond on that. That part of it I get because that's going back to the students. But what I don't get is how all of these universities can watch their enrollment be absolutely dwindling, and at that very same moment, you're adding administrative offices there. You're adding administration levels and layers at the very, very same time.
Well, but you
know that your paying customers are dwindling.
And you're adding salaries for sports players.
Oh, God.
That's NIL. You're adding salaries for sports players. Where do you get off adding more basically employees, whether you want to call them that or not? And you're already losing. You're already operating in the red because you're losing revenue on the tuitions coming in.
100%. Let's extrapolate. Okay, I like to make things as simple as possible for people. We have Pete's Tavern.
Yeah.
And Pete owns the tavern, and Pete bartends there. And as Pete is the bartender, business is doing good. Everything's fine. The bills are being paid. Pete's making a little bit of money. He's going to take his family down to Disneyland, and they're going to have a blast, okay? Everything's good, right? And then Pete looks in and says, you know what? I'm losing customers. Let me hire more bartenders. That's exactly what the frame is.
Mm-hmm.
No bar owner would ever say that. I'm losing customers. Let me try something else. Let me do something, but it's still just me. That's what they're doing at universities. All their customers are out the door, and they're still adding bartenders.
And there is no
Sad.
John Taffer waiting in the wings to fix it.
It's crazy. It's crazy right now.
Yeah.
And what you'll see, I've read a study on this. You're going to see between 10 and 15% of all of the universities in this country collapse financially in the next 5 years.
I believe that. I absolutely believe that.
Okay. We have some scrimmages. Creighton went up against Iowa State. Now, that's a scrimmage. You want to know what you want to do. You want to know what you got. You're going to go find one of the best teams in the country that's really, really good at what they do. And both of those teams picked great opponents to play. Creighton State. Iowa State apparently won by a point. All right. Utah against Nebraska, another one. No payola on that one. Utah comes out and gives Nebraska a shot. Now, with these scores, folks, be very, very careful because, as we said, what trickles down from the NBA, awesome, is going to now trickle down into the NCAA. So what's going to trickle down into the NCAA right now might be load management.
Oh, no.
Okay? I don't know if I can play in these exhibition games.
Oh, no.
I'm not sure I can go, if we have back-to-back tournament games. Oh, my God, we're going to the Bahamas and we got to play on Saturday and Sunday? How horrible. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that. Because when you're looking at some of these exhibition games and I'm checking the box scores, some of the players that I expected and anticipated to see aren't in those box scores right now. And some of them are the best players, obviously, that you're looking for to see how well they did.
Ugh.
Texas, and this is why maybe I was coughing, 80-52 over TCU. Oh, my God. Things look pretty good down there. They got a really good freshman down there that a lot of people are sleeping on as possibly a number one pick. But they're going to do some good stuff down there, I think, Texas this year. And then you have Kansas State and Oklahoma. Good one. Good battle. 72-63 from what I was told. Coleman Hawkins, the new Kansas State center that they muscled out of with Illinois. I think that's going to be good for them. We'll see how it goes. Alabama put a good one on Wake Forest. Alabama come out, and like I said, I believe that's the game where I read they shot 43, 44 three-point attempts. You had Baylor going up against Texas A&M. Good one. VJ Edgecombe, one of my freshman prodigies, is 15 points. You had South Carolina over North Carolina State, and that was another good one. Go play somebody really, really good. Okay, we had a portion on our show last week where we had Video Killed the Radio Star by the Buggles. It was the first video that was ever played on MTV. And what we were talking about is sometimes you're going to wind up killing yourself in this process. Big is going to eat little, but be careful what you wish for because you might be the next little that gets eaten. All right, here's what I'm talking about. And this is what we're going to call this segment That's a Travel. Because I sit at my TV all the time when I watch NBA games and I go, that's a travel, that's a travel, that's a travel. But here we're going to take it a different way, Pete, all right? And we want to talk about some of this conference realignment and the detriment that it's causing right this moment. USC, They went and they said, we're blowing up the Pac-12. We're out of here, and we're going to take it, and we're going all the way across the line, and we're going to join the Big Ten, which is now the Big 14, 18, 16, something like that. But it ain't the Big Ten anymore, okay? So USC football goes out. They blow up the Pac-12. They go over there, and now, as we say, that's a travel, all right? USC's taking their women's soccer, okay? Taking their women's soccer team now to Ohio, cross country, traveling time zones. Got to get them back for class the next day because those are actually the student athletes who will attend class, who will be going to class.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that should have had the most concern in this, but obviously they did not because Pete runs that vibe all the time, but the dollars come raining down and everybody loses sight of all those little people down there. Can't see you now. Hey, volleyball, can't see you down there because of all these dollars that are in front of my face. Hey, women's field hockey, I know you got to go out to Nebraska right now, and I can't see you because of all this money that's flashing in front of my face. I get it. Here we go. They go out. USC football. We're going to go to the Big Ten. We're going to jump in, okay? Minnesota, not exactly a powerhouse. Bang, you lose 24-17. Michigan, bang, you lose 27-24. Penn State, bang, you lose 33-30. Maryland, certainly nobody's Joe Paterno of the world, 29-28. You lose to Maryland, bang. Welcome to the Big Ten. Glad you were happy blowing up everybody in your existence so you guys could feel good about each other. You killed all the rivalries that you had out there. You killed all the vibe that you have locally out there. And now you have your women's ice hockey team traveling to far and various places in the middle of the week when they should be doing their homework in class and doing papers. You have your men's soccer team traversing the country right now, having to be in hotel rooms, having to stay overnight, having to get back onto a flight the next day, go through the TSA checks. Unless they're getting those commercial flights, private flights, they're going commercial. Awful. Awful. I couldn't see you, though. I couldn't see you. It was all that money in front of my eyes. Okay, Tony Bennett. Tony Bennett, I left my heart in Charlottesville. All right, we've talked about this. But again, I'm going to take a little different take on this as well. All right, Tony Bennett recently just retired, resigned as the head coach at the University of Virginia. And folks, we're talking about like days ago. They're just getting ready to kick off the season, November 4th. And Tony Bennett says the way the current things are, he can't see himself continuing as a coach in this current climate.
It's going to happen more often.
Well, let's go back. Roy Williams, Mike Krzyzewski, Jim Boeheim, Jay Wright. Jay Wright had a lot left in the tank, I think, but he had the national championships. And he had the cachet to be able to walk away. How many coaches don't have that cachet right now? How many coaches are stuck in this purgatory that they've provided for them? Terrible, terrible. But I'm going to take it because I like Tony Bennett. I think he's been good for the game. He bears the stigma of being the only coach, the first coach, to be a 16th seed, to lose a number 1 seed, to lose to a 16th seed, and then come right back the next year and win the national title. So it's a great NCAA story. His dad was a coach. He's been a coach a long time, and he was a good player too. But I want to just I get it that it's out of control, all right? But people thought it was out of control when you were getting paid $7 million a year too. People thought it was out of control when John Calipari was taking down $9 million a year. Bill Self, $9 million a year. And so I get it. Now the players are sharing some of that. It didn't come out of your end. It's not like they said, well, geez, Tony, you're at $5 million, but for NIL purposes, we got to take you down to $3 million. They never said that. There's been no discussion of that. These guys are making more and more money as they can. Now the players are starting to make some money, and what it's done is it blown up your locker room. It's blown up your entire locker room. It's blown up your entire program, and it's a different dance now than it used to be. And I get it. You don't want to dance the way that you're dancing right now because you want to dance the way you used to dance. But a lot of people didn't like the way you used to dance. And so you kind of got to suck it up, Tone. All right? You shouldn't leave those guys and they go, oh, well, he wanted to give his assistant coach a shot. I don't buy that for 1 second. You shouldn't have done this at the time you did it. You shouldn't have done it in the way you did it. And now when you're going out the door, and I would hope ADs would look at this very, very carefully and say, maybe at some point he changes his mind and wants to come back. Look at it carefully. Look at it carefully, because I don't like the way it ended here. And I think you had all summer to do this. And that would have given UVA a lot of chance, because none of this just came upon you. None of this just happened. And so I got to hit on this one a little bit, because I'm happy the players are getting paid. I'm also unhappy that it's the Wild Wild West show that it's turned into, but I'm still happy that they're getting paid. Now, is it completely out of control? Yes. Was there a way to do it that was better controlled and have better result and have everybody feeling much better about it? I think there was. They just punted, because they punt every single time, and they go, oh, well, the courts came down with this, and now we have to follow the law, and we have to do this. You're full of crap, okay? You didn't have no indication that you wanted any part of this for any time that you've been out there. And now to hear the hysteria from the coaches of, oh my God. I'll put it out there right now to every AD. Do it to me. Do it to my other Division III brethren that are down here. Do it to me and our Division II coaches that are down here. Put us up at $5 million and see if we can handle it. I'll tell you right now, I can handle it. I'll tell you right now, it won't bother me one bit what all those players are making. If you're giving me $5 million, I think I'm good. I think my family's good. I think that would solve all of the issues that I would have in life. So am I going to stick it out? I'll be around. Thank you very much. But I can't take all the whining that goes on with these guys that have been paid so very highly for so very long. You made millions coaching college basketball. Come on. All right. The ridiculous travel schedule that they have here in this stuff is also, that they have these guys, it's not sustainable. Mm-hmm. For these schools to be doing all of this. It's just not. The
and
NABC
it costs more money.
Yeah, the NABC also now severing from the NCAA. You just see everything splintering, seeing everything go, in the path of, we're just kind of free falling, almost. But the one thing I would say also is the NABC. Name one thing that they've done. National Association of Basketball Coaches, Division I, II, and III.
I've never heard of them.
Exactly, nobody has. And name one thing that they've done. They've done less than the United Bartenders Association when they moved it from 18 to 21. Everybody just sat there and said, wow, I no wonder where my business went. Okay? They didn't even take their hands out of their pockets. Neither did these guys. And I want somebody else to tell me, give me one thing the NCAA has done in order to, because they're a conglomerate right now. They're a monstrosity, okay? Tell me what they're doing right now to earn their keep. Tell me what they're doing right now to provide value and meaning in people's lives. Tell me what they're doing right now to provide return on investment, which is what we hear for all these programs all the time. Where's your return on investment? Show it to me. All right. So we've got a really, really bunch of stuff going on here that, is going to be, it's going to be so hot this year. I think it's going to go crazy. I think it's really, really going to spill off the edge. I really do. Yep. I think you're going to see stuff that you've never seen before in your life, and we're going to be excited to give it to you here. I looked up at the clock, and I just realized we don't have a lot of time left.
We out.
We are out, okay? But I love this show, folks. I love this hour. It's one of the favorite things that I do. And here's the reason that we're as popular as we are right now, and I'll give it to you because this is what ESPN and all of these other places, it's a Bruce Springsteen quote, and it says, this is what we're not doing, this is what they are doing, and it's probably one of the reasons that a lot of private media and everybody are going. And the quote goes, the poets down here don't write nothing at all. They just stand back and let it all be. And in the quick of the night, they reach for their moment and try to make an honest stand. But they wind up wounded, not even dead. Tonight in Jungle Land. See you next week, folks. In the zone, baby.